Many investors spend a great deal of time thinking about how to invest and how to earn higher returns. But we rarely stop to discuss a more fundamental question: why are we investing in the first place? Most people's first reaction is simple. Of course it is to make more money. But the problem is that wealth itself has no natural endpoint. If the goal is simply to make more money for the sake of making more money, then the process never truly ends. Investing should not be just an endless game of chasing larger numbers. So in this video, I do not want to talk about how to make money. I want to talk about a more ultimate question: why do we pursue financial freedom at all? Perhaps you have heard this little story before. A businessman is walking along the beach and sees a fisherman lying in the sun. He asks, "Why aren't you out fishing?" "What for?" the fisherman replies. The businessman says loudly, "So you can make money and buy a bigger fishing boat." The fisherman asks again, "And what would I do with a bigger boat?" The businessman smiles and says, "With a bigger boat, you can catch more fish and make more money." The fisherman narrows his eyes and asks, "And what would I do with all that money?" The businessman says, "Then you would not have to fish anymore. You could relax and lie happily in the sun." The fisherman replies, "But isn't that exactly what I'm doing right now?" What makes this story so thought-provoking is that when most people hear it, they do not immediately think there is anything wrong with the businessman's logic. Why is that? Because today we are already so used to understanding life through the businessman's logic. We assume that people should keep working, keep making money, keep accumulating wealth, and treat all of that as perfectly natural. But is this seemingly obvious logic really without problems? To understand that question, we have to mention a very important concept Marx raised in Capital: alienation. In the past, when a blacksmith made a hammer, he started with a piece of iron, shaped it step by step, and in the end produced a complete hammer. He was involved in the whole process from beginning to end. That hammer was something he created. He knew what it was, and he knew who it was for. To him, it was not just an object to exchange for other resources. It was the product of his labor, his craftsmanship, and one of the ways he related to the world. In that state, labor was not merely a means of earning money. It also carried a sense of achievement and dignity in itself. But in the modern capitalist system of mass production, that relationship has been severed. Take a smartphone, for example. No ordinary employee can really say, "I made this phone." One person is responsible only for chip design, another only for the casing, another only for the operating system, another only for writing code for one small feature. In the end, the phone is produced, and the efficiency is far higher than in the past. But the problem is that most people involved in the process have no complete relationship with the final product. You are just one part inside a massive machine. You are responsible for only one step. You do not truly own the thing being created, and it is difficult to gain that full sense of creation and accomplishment from it. In other words, in the past, I was the person creating the thing. Now I am merely a tool, a link, a means within the process that creates it. If you think about it carefully, does this not feel very familiar to many of us? Work should have been an activity through which we realize our own value. But in reality, for many people, it is merely a way to earn a salary. Every day, we do repetitive work without feeling that we have created anything truly meaningful. We are simply exchanging time for money. This is what Marx meant by the alienation of labor. Labor should have allowed people to feel their abilities, their value, and their creative power. But over time, the relationship between labor and its product was cut off. People were no longer creators, but just one part of the production process. If labor alienation means that the relationship between a person and what they create has been cut off, then the next step is monetary alienation. Once people can no longer find meaning in labor itself, they become much more likely to shift their attention to the result outside of labor, which is money. Money was originally just a tool. Its earliest role was simply to make exchange more convenient, allowing different people to bring what they had produced more smoothly into the social system of trade. In other words, money was originally meant to serve people, to serve exchange and division of labor. But the problem is that as division of labor became more complex and transactions became more frequent, the importance of money kept growing. It was no longer just a simple medium of exchange. It began to store value, measure wealth, provide status, create a sense of security, and even determine a person's social standing. Slowly, money stopped being merely a means and became the goal that many people pursued. Very often, people began to live for money itself. Originally, we were the ones using money. Later, we became the ones being led by it. This is another form of alienation Marx was talking about. A tool that was originally meant to serve people ultimately turns around and begins to dominate them. Money was originally a means to help us achieve the purposes of life. But over time, the means became the end, and the end itself was forgotten. So people begin to believe, more and more naturally, that making more money must mean becoming happier, and that having more wealth must mean having greater value. But the problem is that when a person treats wealth itself as the ultimate goal, they have already fallen into the logic of monetary alienation. At that point, what they are chasing is no longer life itself, but an endless game of numbers with no finish line. But whether it is labor alienation or monetary alienation, they ultimately push people toward the same result. A person gradually stops being a whole person. If someone lives inside this kind of system for long enough, they slowly become numb and rigid. In the end, they stop thinking about why they're alive and stop asking what life itself really means. Every day, all they do is mechanically sell their time in exchange for income, and then use that income to support themselves so they can repeat the same cycle again the next day. Over time, a person's original sense of purpose, creativity, and higher spiritual pursuits are worn away bit by bit. In the end, the person becomes more like a tool being pushed forward by the system. As long as they can still work, still earn money, still keep functioning, that somehow seems enough. This is what Marx referred to as the degradation of the worker. And here, degradation is not meant in a moral sense. It means that the person no longer thinks about the meaning of life, no longer asks what kind of person they truly want to become, and no longer feels art, music, literature, nature, and all those things that make life rich and meaningful. Life becomes rougher, narrower, and more reduced to mere survival. Put even more directly, a person is no longer living in order to grow, create, experience, and fulfill themselves. They're living only so that tomorrow they can continue to survive, continue to work, and continue to earn money. At that point, the person has truly been turned into an instrument. And in many ways, the FIRE movement can be seen as a form of resistance against this kind of alienation. The idea behind it is, I've had enough of this game of selling my time. I want to make money as quickly as possible and get out. That is a very brave idea. But if we have not thought clearly about what we want to do after retirement, FIRE itself can easily create new problems. If we simply replace the goal of making more money with the goal of hitting a certain savings number and retiring, then our way of thinking has not really changed. You should understand that one of the biggest risks of the FIRE movement is that it places too much emphasis on early retirement, while neglecting something much more important, financial independence. It leads many people to mistakenly believe that the ultimate goal of FIRE is not working. But in reality, the true goal should be gaining the right to choose your work. And that brings me to the core idea of this video. The ultimate purpose of working hard, earning money, and investing is not a number, and it is not retirement for its own sake. It is to gain the freedom to choose. That freedom means that when you're faced with a job that leaves you mentally and physically exhausted and feels completely meaningless, you have the confidence to say, I quit, without worrying about next month's bills. It means that when your family needs you, you can choose to put work aside rather than being forced to miss the important moments in their lives. It means that when you become interested in a new field, you can devote time and energy to learning and exploring it without constantly worrying about income. So this is the one idea I hope you remember. The true meaning of investing and managing money is not simply to chase more wealth. It is to take back control over our lives so that in the endless process of selling our time and chasing money, we do not slowly lose the value and dignity of being a whole human being. Financial freedom is not a number. It is a state of being. It is a state in which you are free to choose how to spend each day. Working hard, earning money, and investing are not meant to help us stop working. They're meant to help us one day have the freedom to work for something we truly love. If these ideas resonate with you, subscribe to my channel, and let's use the power of investing to build a freer life together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.